The final part of our interview with Schneider Electric's Steve Carlini looks at which companies are best placed to develop 5G infrastructure and solutions, and we take a particular look at Schneider Electric's expertise in this area. And if we can perhaps move on to we discussed earlier, or you alluded to the fact that, it's the telcos, the IT companies, there's a whole load of companies, that got some sort of, are stakeholders like in this. But in terms of providing the infrastructure, I guess what kind of company is best placed to help roll out the IT infrastructure required? And perhaps as a supplementary to that, do you think it's possible and or desirable for one company to do it, or do you think collaboration, partnerships, producing solutions, etc., is the preferred way forward?
I think it's going to be a collaboration. The carriers, like I said, are more interested on spectrum rights, and managing the customer base. It's not really in their interest to manage a network of data centers. There are companies that are in the data center business that are very interested in that. And as we talked about the value proposition of 5G, so there's also companies that are interested in rolling out this network of edge data centers to extend their cloud platforms. So extending the cloud platforms and rolling out the 5G network, there's collaboration potential in there, and there's collaboration not just between the companies, but between the different applications. So you're deploying these mobile edge clouds, and they could be running the 5G application, they could be running the edge version of the clouds, whether it's Google Anthos, Azure Edge, AWS Outposts. You have all of these efforts going on at the same time, and then you have enterprise applications as well. I think the rollout is going to be collaborative, and I think the companies that are in the data center business right now are going to have a big stake in partnering with the carriers as we move along with this.
And does that same model apply, sort of, if you like, to the tier below, the folks like yourself who are, major suppliers, potential suppliers to, to these IT solutions? I know you obviously you have a massive global footprint, etc. But will you be working? I think you've previously announced, solutions with Cisco and some of the, the major server guys. So rather than some poor 5G, company having to source everything, and bolt it all together, will they be looking for, ready-made solutions that they can almost fit and forget?
Yeah. So like I said, we're partnering with a lot of the stakeholders. One of the stakeholders you mentioned, Cisco, some of the network providers and the IT providers, the HPEs of the world, and we're also partnering with them as well. So we're hoping to partner with the winner on this. And what our goal is to make the our part of the ecosystem is to package the physical infrastructure, which is the enclosures, the cooling, the power, and the management of that, and the gateway, to the cloud, package all of that in a way to make it as easy as possible to deploy, the IT equipment that's needed to power this. So yes, we are working, across the board with all of the different stakeholders on different solutions, and it's really interesting. There's companies that are taking a hard look at this because of the COVID impact. There was a lot of money that was pumped into beefing up 4G networks. So there's a lot of projects that we're working on right now to deliver solutions that are more 4.5G based, and a lot of those are on older types of 48 volt systems that are still being deployed. So there's companies that are doing that are asking us to do that. There's companies asking us to do a hybrid of we want half of these to be negative 48 volts, and we need half of these to support. So a combination. So when you do a combination, there's different form factors of the telco equipment and the IT equipment. So it's very complicated. And then there's companies that are saying, oh no, we're just going to do, 5G. That's all going to be standard IT based. So, we're supporting, all of those, types of requests. Long term, it is going to be more of the standardized IT equipment, the open systems, the, software defined, WAN network.
Perhaps, I mean, the market opportunity, I mean, the numbers, you can, take any set of numbers you like, but we're talking sort of trillions of dollars in terms of 5G and even, the edge slice of that, I guess.
Yeah.
And I know Schneider, you have a nice broad footprint. You obviously have a lot of industrial sort of history. I mean, without sort of singing your praises too much, but you have almost a uniquely broad portfolio and, alignment to most of the industries where 5G is going to make a difference?
So we have the portfolio, we have we had the foresight to look at the management system and say, edge is going to be the future. We're going to spend all of our money developing a management system that's going to be compatible for edge solutions. So we did that a few years ago. So we're in a good position, a great position there. We're also in a great position of, like I said, linking, our service, network and our service, processes to a larger ecosystem. So we've set up our service networks so that, we could monitor the installation, they could monitor. So the software is very, 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 very flexible if our partner, wants to, manage it themselves, or the company wants to manage it themselves. They can use our software for that. They could have us do it, but it's all linked to useful recommendations and service response. So we have the supply chain also, globally to deliver the hardware, to package it up. We have the relationships with system integrators on the IT side. And Schneider being, a large industrial company, we have a huge, network of what we call, OT or operation technology types of integrators. So we just, we're launching a platform called Exchange, where we are bringing the IT and the OT communities together and having them collaborate. So the industrial applications, we didn't really talk about too much in this call, but you have things like Industry 4.0 that's rolling out, and with the increase in the pandemic and the exposure that a lot of companies had to offshore manufacturing, there's been a desire to maybe bring some of that manufacturing back and to do that, they're looking at why not deploy the latest technologies like Industry 4.0. So a lot of the OT companies, because Industry 4.0, you need an edge computing aspect of that for it to work, have to partner with IT specialists. So we're bringing kind of the collaboration of those communities together to have closer working relationships. Industry is, still, I think, going to be, one of the best use cases for 5G, and things like, IVA, which, is video analytics, is going to be used, predominantly in the new factories of the future, and with the bandwidth and the amount of data that you're going to be looking at. And it's not data that you're going to want to store, it's just data that's coming through these cameras that you have to be used for quality control. And if something is wrong, if it's your bottling manufacturer and it's the label's upside down or wrong, you want to get rid of that right away. So you're going to need edge computing for that. And you're going to need edge computing to coordinate and collaborate with the other systems within Industry 4.0 application. But, the manufacturing integrators, they're not really familiar with that. So we're bringing the IT expertise into that for them.
Maybe finally, and perhaps a little unfair because we are in uncertain times, but if we perhaps assume that in 2021 life might be returning to some kind of, whether it's this next new normal or whatever, over what time frame would you anticipate 5G becoming as prevalent as say cloud is, or and virtualization. These things are talked about. Everyone has a look at it. Few early adopters go back, have another go, and I guess yeah. So we're talking sort of 5-year rollout, longer than that, I guess.
Yeah, it's really going to be dependent on, I think, what happens with the economy, as a result of what's going on with the pandemic. I think, and it's really going to have the collaboration between the government and industry has to open up again for it to roll out. But our prediction is you're going to see a lot of focus, on fixed access 5G for homes. So that's going to think that, through our, work with the World Economic Forum, that has risen to the top. That's getting a lot of attention. That's where you're going to see, more of the money being spent. And that's going to happen. That's going to happen right away. So it's going to happen next year, this year, the end of this year. A lot of, like I said, a lot of money is being spent on beefing up 4G in areas that don't have service or are underserved. I think those are going to go low band 5G. So that's going to happen. The high band 5G, I think, there was a lot of test cases going on now, test sites. It was probably going to start ramping up into actual use cases at the end of this year. It's probably going to be more towards the middle of next year or late next year before you see, what's being called, standalone 5G, in those environments. So lower band 5G is being accelerated, and higher band 5G is being delayed a little bit.
Okay, well, I mean, we covered a fair amount there. So unless you've got any final thoughts or comments, I appreciate your time. But obviously, if there's anything you'd like thoughts to leave us with, feel free.
No, I think 5G. We talked about manufacturing operations. I think you're going to see 5G being deployed in a lot of like building management systems as well. So we have the ability within Schneider. We have a big building management system portfolio, and we're working with them on censoring buildings for water quality and air quality, and we have what's called EcoStruxure building operations. So EcoStruxure building operations will give you profile of all of the contaminants within your water and your air system. So we're taking that, and if you have that, it can there's what's called ARC. It's a return to work program that EcoStruxure building operations actually integrates with. So you take the output of EcoStruxure building operations, and you'll be able to port that over into this ARC platform, and it will give you an evaluation of your building. And we're doing that like we're filtering all the data, we're normalizing all the data, and then we're exposing it through APIs, and then we built a special connector to go into this ARC program. So you can get a very, very detailed look on all of the different parameters to make people more comfortable and give you a score for returning to work within those buildings. So things are happening. At the building level, things are happening, for 5G at the manufacturing site, shipyards and private networks are still, we didn't talk about that, are kind of going to be the springboard to more and more 5G applications. If you're running a shipyard or a manufacturing operation and you want to run what's called a private network, you can do that. You can run it on a licensed band or an unlicensed band. But when you're running it yourself, you're not subject to the control of the carrier. So sometimes the carriers may have a lot of use on their networks, and they may do something that's called throttling, which is slowing the performance. And if you're running an application that cannot tolerate that, you're going to build your own network. So you're going to build your own network with 4.5G, and then eventually with 5G, you can actually upload those to 5G by just changing the software of the data center. So it's a springboard for 5G, and those applications are still happening, and they're actually getting a little bit of a boost right now because of the tremendous amount of bandwidth that's on the current network.
Okay, it sounds like we've got enough perhaps for a conversation another day, but
Yeah.
for now at least, I really appreciate your time, Steve.
Okay, great.